What are you running out of time to say? Not because the clock is loud. Not because someone is rushing you. Not because life suddenly feels urgent. But because somewhere, deep down, you've begun to notice something quiet, something subtle. Time doesn't feel as open as it once did. There are things we assume we'll say later, when the moment feels right, when life slows down, when emotions settle, when we finally find the perfect words. But later has a strange way of moving. It keeps shifting forward, just out of reach. I didn't always think about time this way. For a long time, I believed there would always be another chance, another conversation, another evening, another moment where everything would naturally fall into place and the words would come out easily. We tell ourselves that relationships have time, that people will always be around, that there will always be another opportunity to explain ourselves properly. But slowly, without any dramatic moment announcing it, something begins to change. You start noticing the people around you differently. Some are getting older. Some are getting quieter. Some are drifting into lives that no longer intersect with yours the way they once did. And some are simply no longer there to hear what you never said. That realization doesn't arrive loudly. It doesn't crash into your life like a storm. It arrives gently, almost invisibly. And suddenly, the silence around certain conversations starts to feel heavier. Because there are words we carry for a very long time. Words we keep rewriting inside our minds. Words we rehearse when we're alone. Words we imagine saying someday when we finally feel ready. Simple sentences that somehow feel impossibly difficult. I'm sorry. I didn't understand back then. I was wrong. I miss you. I love you. I needed you more than I ever said. None of these sentences are complicated, yet they hold a strange power. Because once spoken, they change something. They change the space between people. They soften walls that have been standing for years. Or sometimes, they reveal emotions we've carefully hidden. So instead, we wait. We wait for the right tone, the right moment, the right emotional distance, the right version of ourselves who can say it calmly, perfectly, without making things messy. But life doesn't pause while we prepare. Life keeps moving while we rehearse. Days turn into months, months turn into years. And one day, without realizing when it happened, the opportunity you assumed would always exist becomes uncertain. Because what we run out of isn't always time itself. Sometimes what we run out of is opportunity. The chance to say something honestly. The chance to soften a memory before it hardens permanently. The chance to repair something small before it quietly becomes something permanent. Maybe you've felt this too. That quiet awareness that certain conversations are becoming harder to have. Not because the words are heavier than before, but because the distance between you and the other person has slowly grown. Emotional distance. Physical distance. Time. And sometimes the hardest part isn't not knowing what to say. Sometimes the hardest part is knowing exactly what you want to say, but not knowing how to begin. How do you start a sentence that should have been spoken years ago? How do you reopen a conversation that time has quietly sealed shut? So instead, you keep it inside. You tell yourself it's unnecessary, that it belongs in the past, that bringing it up now might only complicate things. You convince yourself that silence is easier. But unspoken words don't disappear. They settle somewhere inside you. They show up in subtle ways, in the hesitation before certain conversations, in the way you avoid certain memories, in the strange feeling that some chapters of your life remain unfinished. There's a particular weight that comes from carrying something unsaid for too long. Not because you were careless, but often because you were trying to protect everyone involved. Sometimes you were protecting the other person from discomfort. Sometimes you were protecting yourself from vulnerability. Sometimes you were simply waiting for the moment to feel safe enough. But protecting isn't the same as connecting. And over time, silence can slowly transform into distance. Not loud distance, not dramatic distance. Just the quiet kind that grows in spaces where words never arrived. You don't have to say everything. Not every memory needs to be reopened. Not every relationship needs to be repaired. But there might be one thing, just one, that keeps returning to your thoughts. One sentence that still sits quietly in your chest. One truth that hasn't found its place in the world yet. Maybe it's something gentle. Maybe it's something difficult. Maybe it's something you've been carrying for years. And maybe the question isn't whether you'll say it perfectly. Maybe the question is simply this: does it deserve to be said before it becomes something you carry forever? Because time rarely asks us to rush. It doesn't demand dramatic action. It simply asks us to notice. To notice the conversations we keep postponing. To notice the people whose presence we quietly assume will always remain. To notice the words we believe we'll eventually say. Someday. You don't have to act on this tonight. You don't have to solve anything immediately. Just let the question stay with you for a moment. Let it sit quietly in the background of your thoughts. And ask yourself something simple, something honest, something only you can answer. What are you running out of time to say?